Well, we know that in collecting good data on our employment service is important because in order to make good decisions for the people that we serve, to improve our craft, to make sure that people are getting the resources they need, that we can truly achieve our goals of improving employment outcomes and helping people get more jobs, we have to have good data. And so this tool is helping us collect good employment data so that we can make those good decisions about what's working, what's not working, and where we go from here. We have to know where we are to know where we're going. We are reaching out to our provider network, so the agencies, the providers who are in the DIDD network, we are reaching out to them to ask them to report data on the people that they're serving collectively as a network. And so we are asking them questions like, does this person that you support have a job? If so, what kind of setting is it? Have they previously worked in a sheltered workshop? What is their wage? What sort of industry is it? Do they have an ISP goal related to having a job? So there's a series of about 7 or 8 questions that we ask our provider network to answer on behalf of the individuals they support. One of the questions we asked ourselves was, how often does this tool need to be used? And I know that we're typically accustomed to submitting data monthly because that's how we tend to do things in business, but we actually made the strategic decision to only collect this data twice a year, because through our research we discovered that actually if we strategically collect data 2 times per year, once in May on April data and once in November on October data, that data is virtually identical to the data that we would collect if we did it monthly. So the first thing we did was made the decision to reduce the burden on providers by only collecting it twice a year. We also made the decision to transfer the tool to an online platform that is as easy to use as Facebook or Gmail or any of those things, so that all a provider has to do is sign in with their username and password. And there's a very intuitive setup where you click a few buttons, you type in a few numbers, and then you click submit. And it's as easy as that. And we've gotten lots of good feedback from providers about this new tool, that it's easy to use, it's intuitive, it just kind of works for them. So when you're able to communicate the importance and the reasons why we're collecting this sort of data, and then you combine that with a tool that's easy to use and minimizes the barriers on the people who need to actually use the tool, it's a good situation. So first and foremost, this data has just shined a light on exactly how we're doing across the state, at the state level, the regional levels, the provider level, and the individual level. And we're able to look at this data in all sorts of different ways to understand how we're doing. So hands down, it's shown us exactly how we're doing across the state. There's a lot we can do, and so what it's going to look like is spending the next 6 months or so setting goals and thinking about how we want to allocate resources, and then in 6 months from now, we're going to do it again. We're going to measure the data and see if we've made any growth, and if we have made growth in some areas, it's great, and if we haven't made growth in other areas, we need to take a look at that and go from there. One of the things I think it's really important for us to remember is that this data represents real people. And when we're talking about data and data collection tools and things like that, it's really easy to get caught up in numbers and tools and figures and stats and analysis and stuff like that. But we have to remember that these are real people's lives, and that every increase in employment rate represents someone who's gotten a job that they've pursued for a long time. It represents someone like Gerald, who spent decades of his life working in a sheltered workshop for sub-minimum wages, but is now, thanks to the support of his provider and in pursuing his goals, is working in a competitive integrated job, earning real wages, and he's managed to open a savings account and save for vacations and healthcare expenses. So we just have to keep that in mind, that every data point we look at, every graph, every increase, every decrease, every analysis is a culmination of real people's lives and real people's stories that we can tell.